Welcome back to MFO, everybody. We got a very special episode today. I am on the phone with Kelly Smith from Central California. And Kelly is the owner and operator of Home Brew Tackle. And Home Brew Tackle, Kelly actually was kind enough to send me a box of his homemade lures that he did specifically for the Mark Fisher Outdoors Virtual Bass Tournament. And we have elected to give those to whoever wins the smallest fish category, and they're gonna get this whole box of homemade lures that Kelly has made. Well, you know, I talked with Kelly, and one of the things that he's gonna talk about is what it's like not only to make these lures, but then to go out on the water and actually use a lure that he made and actually catch some fish. We're gonna go through the whole process. We're gonna talk to Kelly, and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back to Mark Fisher Outdoors, everybody. I'm Mark Fisher. Kelly, do I have you on the phone?
I'm here.
Thank you so much for doing this. As I said, not only for agreeing to be a part of this interview, but for sending us all of these baits. I'm right now kind of zooming the camera around and showing just the wide assortment of baits that you've sent. And one of the participants in the Mark Fisher Outdoors Virtual Bass Tournament is going to be the lucky winner of all of these things. Thank you so much for doing that.
Not a problem. I'm glad to do it.
So Kelly, you're from Central California?
Yeah, I'm from Central California, born and raised in Modesto, which is right in the heart of the valley. I live in Turlock now, which is maybe 5-10 minutes from there. But yeah, born and raised here in the Central Valley.
And when did you start making baits?
Back in 2017, I got started. I thought it would be fun, and I would save all this money on making baits because.
How'd that work out for you?
Yeah, don't tell my wife, but yeah, it didn't. It morphed into more. So
when you started making these in 2017, was this what? You were in your garage, or in your basement, or in the kitchen, or where'd you start?
Yeah, I was in the garage melting on a kind of a hot plate and little aluminum pans, and just remelting old plastics, and made a couple plaster molds that were terrible, and then I slowly just started getting an idea. Yeah, I like this, so got a microwave and some injection molds, and now I have a small shop. It's 120 square feet. It's not big, but it's packed with everything I need to make pretty much everything except hard baits like crankbaits and topwaters. And I do have airbrush and stuff like that I bought for that, but that's not something that I'm going to take on. So.
You're already setting limits on. Yeah. I just can't, because I'm sure you kind of mentioned to me that there's an addictive part of this, in that it's kind of, it's a relaxing part for you, but there's also, tell me about the addictive part when you catch a fish using a lure that you made.
Well, that's the whole thing. There's nothing like it to either, pour up a worm, a color that, is a little bit different than something you've seen before, or tying up a jig or a spinner bait or something like that, and then going out and catching fish on it. It not only builds your confidence, but it's pretty cool, especially when somebody asks you what you caught it on, and you get to tell them, something you made.
That is awesome. Do you remember what the first, what lure was it that you made that you caught your first bass on? What lure was it?
Absolutely. It was a 6-inch Fusion X worm that I made with remelts. That was some ugly color, and I was at Lake McClure, one of our local lakes here, and I was fishing with my wife, and I caught a fish, and after that, it was all over that. that fish probably cost me 20 grand.
From that point on, it was like, oh, I can't stop doing this. That was the bait that got you started. Out of all of the baits that you make, do you have one that you're most proud of, either because of the way it performs or the fact that it's just a little bit different than, you know, a commercially made bait or anything along those lines?
Yeah, you know, I mean, the tried and true, you know, stick baits, you know, a Senko, are great. I got the formula down pretty good where it's real similar to the Yamamoto. But probably my favorite is a chatterbait. I call them rump shakers, and you know, I've caught a lot of really good fish. I start making what I call a Magnum rump shaker, which I think there's one in that box, and it's a 1 ounce with a big old blade, and so that's something a little different. That, you know, there's a few out on the market, but aren't too many. But you know, stuff like that's pretty cool. The colors is where you can make it different, and that's why I like doing it. You're not limited to what you see in the catalog or at Tackle Warehouse.
Right. You can mix and match colors to get something that no one else can get anywhere, you know, at all, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The colors are endless, and that's one thing. I mean, I don't know if you'll notice in the box of goodies, but I tried to send colors of different baits that I think would work across the U.S. I know you have viewers from everywhere. Some of the colors, not particularly that I would use here, but I know some of my buddies in the Midwest use them, so I tried to do a variety. I'm pretty sure there's some in that box that you'll be able to catch it.
I have to tell you, when I first opened the box, I looked at it and went, oh man, what is the status of me being able to, as a tournament director, take a few of these out and try them out? But I promise you, I did not do that. Every bait that you donated is going to our winner here. So, but I'm looking right now at the beaver style baits, and I that color would be a killer color. And I like your the Cinco imitator. What do you call those, meat sticks?
I call them meat sticks. So the mold that I shoot those out of, it's a cast mold, so that you'll notice they're not shiny, which works perfect for me. But it's a do-it mold, and it's the only licensed Yamamoto mold. So there's tons of different mold companies, but that particular mold is the only one that's licensed by Yamamoto to be the same. So that's pretty cool.
So tell me a little, where did the name Home Brew Tackle Company come from? How'd that come about?
I've been in the Modesto Ambassador since 2000. A couple years off and on when I didn't have too much time with them. But one of the other guys that's been in the club and been our president for years, he does a lot of homebrew and beer, and you know, I kind of like beer, and it's pretty good. And I was sitting there thinking, some of my buddies were like, "Hey, what's the name of your company?" And I was like, "Well, I don't sell anything, but a name and a logo would be cool." And then I was out partaking in a cold beverage in the garage, and I was like, "That's it.
There it is."
It just kind of stuck.
Nice. Well, so let's talk about this. So you do not sell these baits. Is that like a permanent thing? And if so, why? You know, what's the? Because I mean, these are very, you know, these are all packaged with stickers. You've gone to the point where you've got, you know, a name of a company and things like that. So explain to the viewers where your thoughts are in terms of actually selling baits.
Well, I don't sell them, and the main reason is it's my hobby. It's what I do for stress relief. Like I said, I'm a club fisherman guy. We fish 12 months out of the year. I get to pre-fish maybe 6 of those times. So, with the exception of a couple extended trips, I get maybe 25, 30 days on the water, which isn't a lot by any means, and gives me a chance to still get the fishing bug, but, keeping it something that if I want to go out and, pour a couple packs of, whatever creature baits, I can. I don't have to worry about it. I work full time. I have a 12-year-old stepson and, a busy wife, so I don't really have time to go. Plus, fishermen are picky. Whenever you buy something at the store, you want it perfect, and my baits aren't perfect by any means, but I can tell you that, like I said, I have confidence they'll catch fish anywhere, and I try to keep it as fun. It's an expensive hobby, just like fishing, but it's
but
fun.
right now it is a hobby and not something that is gonna get turned into a homegrown business kind of thing, at least at this point.
Correct.
Okay.
I don't see it.
So,
I don't see it changing.
So now my kind of final question and the way that we're going to wrap up today is you're in the tournament, you're in the virtual bass tournament. Have you gotten out yet to start catching fish? Are you one of those sandbagger guys that have already caught your fish and you're just not sending them in until the end of the month, or have you not even gotten out on the water yet, or what's your situation? Or are you not willing to talk to us about it?
Well, the sandbagger term kind of hits close to my heart because I've been in the golf business for 30 plus years. That's what I do.
Gotcha.
But no, I have not gotten out. I have a night tournament this Saturday night, so I'm hoping we do a split weigh-in in the summertime for regulation purposes. So we fish from 6 to midnight and then 1 to 7. So I can bring in 5 fish per half. So I'm hoping
you should be able to get some good fish out of that trip, right?
I'm hoping. I know it's been tough at where we're going, but I'm hoping the limit's 5, right?
Yeah. For our tournament, it is. Well, where are you fishing?
We're fishing at Lake Amador.
Are you near any of the quote California gems that everybody knows about?
Absolutely. I'm fortunate. I'm about 45 minutes away from the California Delta.
Oh, nice.
Which is one of the top fisheries in the nation, and then I'm about 3.5 hours from Clear Lake, which is the bass factory. And
absolutely.
If you haven't watched any videos on Clear Lake bass fishing, I encourage you to do it. I get up there twice. I get to spend 10 or 12 days a year at Clear Lake, so that's kind of my happy place, my Disneyland.
I guess. And I'm sorry, what was the lake that you were fishing this tournament on later in the week?
This weekend it's Lake Amador.
Lake Amador. Okay. And does that pump out the same size fish as like a Clear Lake or a Delta?
It can. It goes in spurts throughout the years. 15 years ago, I would say that was one of the premier big fish lakes around here. It's kind of a small lake that's stocked with trout and, Bass Lake trout. So we've had some big fish in years past pulled out of there. Me personally, probably 4.5, 5 pounds is the biggest fish I've got.
Gotcha.
But,
Well, Kelly, again, I just want to say thank you, and I do want to make sure that our viewers know that this was a totally unsolicited. Kelly contacted me and said, "Mark, I'd love to send these baits to you if you can use them as one of the prizes in the tournament." I jumped on it, and I Kelly, I'm just so grateful that you donated these and that you were willing to come on and do this interview, and we could learn a little bit more about what you're doing. It's quite honestly, it's one of the reasons that I did this tournament, is just to be able to get our community a little bit more together in terms of knowing a little bit about each other. And so this was a phenomenal way to do that. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate it. I appreciate everything you guys do to, make the channel and put out the videos. I know that's a lot of work. And, the other folks, I'm just like everybody else, one of the subscribers that goes through. And I learned not only from you guys, but, subscribers, they respond to put in, oh, yeah, and by the way, if you try this or that. And so it's kind of everybody. So anything I can do like that, like I said, I don't sell them, but something like this is awesome. And, I hope whoever gets them enjoys them. And the only thing I ask is if and when you catch something, just, post it and tag social media. And I'd love to see your pictures.
For sure. Kelly put a nice little kind of descriptive letter together that'll also go out to the winner. And when I read that, I wanted to get him on here so that everyone could hear about Home Brew Tackle Company. So guys, thank you for tuning in. If you haven't, please hit that subscribe button, and we will see you again on Monday for another episode of Mark Fisher Outdoors. Take care, everybody. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank you, sir.